All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are diving deep into some seriously wild territory.
Oh, yeah.
The idea that reality might not be what we think it is at all.
I love this stuff.
We're exploring a YouTube video titled,
Okay.
He Exposed It. We're Already Dead. The Evidence is Everywhere. No bays.
Pitchy title.
From the channel Law of Insights, which goes deep on the work of physicist John Wheeler and something called the participatory anthropic principle.
Right, Wheeler, yeah.
So what is that all about?
Well, it's this really intriguing concept that suggests that the universe, well, it doesn't just exist out there independently from us. It actually kind of requires observers to bring it into being.
Okay, so like the universe is saying, hey, you listening, you're a part of making all this real.
It's a pretty wild idea, right?
Yeah, it is. Leads to some pretty big questions, too.
Definitely.
Like, if our observations are shaping reality, then what does that mean about life, death, the whole shebang?
Exactly, the whole
enchilada, yeah.
Yeah. And Wheeler, he wasn't just speculating.
Right.
He was building on some core scientific principles.
Okay.
Particularly from quantum mechanics.
Oh boy, here we go.
Which is a field, as you know, that's known for turning our understanding of reality on its head.
Quantum mechanics, it's like the Wild West of physics, right?
Yeah.
Where things can be in two places at once.
Right.
And cats are both alive and dead.
Well, not quite that simple, but you're getting at the strange nature of it, for sure.
Definitely strange.
One of the best examples of this is the double slit experiment.
Okay.
You know this one, right? Where you shine light through two slits.
I've heard of it.
And instead of the light acting like particles, like little bullets, going through one slit or the other, it creates this wave-like pattern on the screen behind it.
Like it's interfering with itself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, and here's the really weird part.
Okay.
If you try to measure which slit each photon goes through, like, aha, I've got you now, little photon, it suddenly acts like a particle again.
Oh, wow.
Like it was saying, oh, you're watching, now I have to choose.
So it's like the act of trying to figure out what the light is doing forces it to decide wave or particle.
Right, to collapse those possibilities into one outcome.
But what if that's happening all the time, not just with photons, but like on a larger scale?
That's the question.
What if, like, our choices, our attention to certain things is what makes our realities solidify?
That's precisely the rabbit hole Wheeler was going down.
I like rabbit holes.
What if it's not just this quirky thing at the micro level, but something fundamental to how the entire universe works?
Interesting.
That without observers, the universe would just be this sea of potential, this blurry quantum soup of possibilities.
But wouldn't that mean we're kind of like creating reality as we go? Just by living our lives.
Yeah.
Paying attention to things.
In a way, yes. Kind of like your analogy earlier.
Right.
You know, when you're looking at a leaf, the more you focus on it, the more details you see, the more real it seems, right?
Yeah. Right. Wheeler was saying that kind of focused attention, maybe it's more than just a metaphor.
Okay, so hold on. If observation collapses possibilities into one outcome, like you said, does that mean every time we make a choice, like a big one or a small one, we're collapsing all these potential futures into just the one we end up experiencing?
That's one interpretation.
It's like, whoa.
It really makes you think about free will.
Yeah, free will, destiny.
Right, the whole thing, and the nature of time itself, really.
Oh, time. Don't even get me started on time.
Well, speaking of time, Wheeler took this even further with an idea called the delayed choice experiment.
Okay, this is where it gets really trippy, right?
This one's a real head-scratcher.
I've heard a little bit about it.
It suggests that observing something right now, in the present, can somehow influence what happened in the past.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying we can change the past just by looking at something in the present?
Not quite. It's more subtle than that.
Okay.
But it does suggest this deep interconnectedness between now and then.
And a much more fluid understanding of time than we usually assume.
I've definitely had moments where I've wondered if, if my decisions changed my memory of how things were before. Like, did that choice I made actually rewrite my experience?
That's a fascinating question, isn't it?
It is.
And this delayed choice experiment, it really makes you think about the nature of memory and how we construct our personal narratives, our stories of how we got to where we are.
Right.
Our whole sense of self, really.
So we've got quantum mechanics suggesting that observation shapes reality and maybe even influences the past. It's a lot to take in. But then there's another layer to this, right? Wheeler's concept of it from bit.
Right. It from bit.
What does that even mean?
This is where things get even more interesting. Wheeler proposed that the universe isn't built from matter, but from information, the bit, like in computer language.
So instead of the universe being made up of stuff, it's more like it's made up of code.
Yeah, you could say that Wheeler was arguing that the physical reality we experience emerges from the bit, the underlying information.
So it's like saying the universe is more like a thought than a machine.
Exactly.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it, but can you give us an example of this in the real world, like something we can relate to?
Sure. Think of a musical score. The notes on the page, they're information, right? But when they're played, they create the symphony.
Ah, I
The
see.
symphony is the it emerging from the bit of the score. Wheeler was suggesting that the universe works in a similar way.
Wow, that's a great analogy. So the universe isn't just a random collection of stuff. It's more like a symphony of information unfolding and evolving constantly. But hasn't this idea of the universe being more than just matter been around for a while, like in philosophy and religion?
Absolutely. Wheeler's ideas have echoes in many ancient traditions.
Really?
For example, in Hermetic philosophy, there's this principle, the all is mind.
I've heard of that.
It aligns with it from bit in suggesting that reality is ultimately a mental construct.
It's so interesting how these ideas keep popping up in different cultures and times.
I think there's something to that it challenges our typical human-centered view, where we see ourselves as separate from and superior to the rest of the universe.
Right, right.
These ideas invite us to consider a more interconnected and holistic perspective.
Okay, so if the universe is fundamentally information and observation shapes reality, what does that mean for us? Are we just like tiny bits of information in this vast cosmic code? Or could we be something more?
That leads to a truly mind-blowing question. What if the universe itself is a living organism?
Wait, hold on. Are we saying the whole universe could be alive?
It might seem like a leap, but if you look at it through the lens of Wheeler's ideas, it starts to make sense. Think about how things organize themselves in nature, galaxies, spiraling cells forming complex organisms. It's not random chaos. There's a clear drive towards order and complexity.
So you're saying there's some kind of intelligence at work, like a cosmic mind guiding everything.
Not necessarily a mind as we understand it. Remember, Wheeler said the universe is more like a thought than a machine. Perhaps it's more like a self-organizing system driven by this flow of information.
But even if it's not a mind, wouldn't that still suggest some kind of underlying consciousness? Where else would that drive towards order and complexity come from?
That's a great question, and one that's been debated for centuries. But Wheeler's ideas really bring it to the forefront. If the universe is fundamentally information, and that information is constantly evolving and creating new forms, it's hard to deny that there's something incredibly creative and maybe even conscious at play.
Okay, so we have this possibly living information-based universe,
Yeah.
and we're active participants in shaping it. But where does that leave us? Are we just tiny specks in this vast cosmic being, or could we be something more?
It raises the most profound question of all. Are we the universe experiencing itself?
Whoa. So instead of being separate from the universe, we're actually expressions of that same universal mind.
Exactly. It blurs the lines between us and everything else. We're not separate. We're expressions of that same consciousness experiencing itself through all these countless forms and perspectives of life.
I'm trying to wrap my head around that. If we are the universe experiencing itself, what does that mean for how we live our lives?
Well, for one thing, it suggests that our thoughts, intentions, and actions have a much greater impact than we realize. We're not just passive observers in this cosmic drama. We're active participants, co-creators of our own reality, and the reality we share with everyone else.
That's a powerful realization, but it also raises a lot of questions. If we're co-creating reality, how do we do it consciously? And what about the times when things feel totally out of our control?
Those are great questions, and that's exactly what we'll be exploring in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, so we're back and ready to keep going with our deep dive.
Back into the deep end.
Into this mind-bending world of John Wheeler and his participatory anthropic principle.
One of the greats.
So just to kind of recap where we've been, we're exploring the idea that the universe isn't just something out there separate from us.
It's not just a backdrop.
But something we are actively part of, participating in, creating through...
Well, through observation.
Through observation, yeah.
Our very act of looking shapes what we see.
Yeah. And maybe, just maybe.
Just maybe.
The universe itself is kind of like this living, evolving entity.
Right, and we're part of that evolution.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
And I imagine for some folks listening, it might feel
Yeah.
a little overwhelming,
Oh, for
all
sure.
these wild concepts.
It's a lot to take in.
Yeah, but amidst all the wildness,
Amidst the chaos.
there's something, I think,
Right.
really empowering here, too.
Absolutely.
Like, if we're not just passive passengers on this cosmic ride,
Mm-hmm.
but we actually have a hand on the steering wheel,
Right.
that's a huge,
It is.
shift in perspective.
Total game changer.
Yeah, but how do we actually do that? How do we go from feeling kind of overwhelmed by it all to actually using this knowledge, to
Yeah.
live better, to live more fulfilling lives?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
I think the first step really is awareness.
Okay.
We've been talking about how observation shapes reality,
Right.
but we're not always conscious
Of what we're looking at.
of what we're observing exactly, or the kind of energy we're bringing to that observation.
Yeah.
It's like we're all walking around with these incredibly powerful reality-shaping tools,
Powerful tools.
but we've never been given the instruction manual.
We need that manual.
Right.
So how do we get our hands on that manual? What are some practical things we can do,
Yeah.
to become more conscious
Yeah.
co-creators of our reality?
Well, one of the simplest but most powerful tools
Okay.
is just paying attention to our thoughts.
Or thought.
If we're constantly dwelling on negativity, fear, lack, we're feeding those energies, right? And potentially attracting more of that into our lives.
You're putting it out there.
You're putting it out there. But if we can shift our focus even a little bit
Yeah.
to gratitude, possibility, what we want to experience,
Okay.
we start to align ourselves with a different frequency.
Like tuning into a different radio station.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that when I get stuck in those,
Yeah.
negative thought loops,
Oh, we all do.
everything just feels
Yeah.
heavy and difficult.
Yeah.
But when I can catch myself and consciously choose to focus on something positive, even just a little thing,
Right. A little shift.
things seem to lighten up.
Exactly. It's like tuning that radio, like you said.
Yeah.
If you want to listen to a particular station, you've got to dial in the right frequency.
Yeah, you got to find it.
And the same principle applies to our thoughts
Oh,
and how we experience the world.
so if our thoughts have that kind of power, then what about actions?
Oh, actions are huge.
Do they play a role in shaping reality too?
Absolutely. Our actions are like the outward expression of our thoughts and beliefs.
Okay.
Every choice we make, every step we take, it's like a vote for the kind of world we want to live in.
So if we want more kindness in the world,
We have to practice kindness.
okay,
If we want to experience abundance.
abundance.
We have to be generous with what we have.
It's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Exactly. Aligning our actions with our intentions.
It's like that Gandhi quote, right? Be the change you want to see in the world.
Such a powerful quote.
It's not just a nice saying. It's like,
It's a practice.
it's an instruction manual.
It is.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing is
Yeah.
those actions, even the small ones,
The little things.
they have a ripple effect.
Oh, I like that.
When we act from love, compassion, creativity,
Yeah.
we send out those positive vibes.
Positive vibes.
And that can influence others.
Yeah, for sure.
And maybe even the world at large.
It's all connected.
It is.
Okay, but let's be real for a second.
It's get real.
There are times when,
Yeah.
life throws us some curveballs.
It does.
Things happen that we have absolutely no control over.
Right.
How does this idea of conscious creation fit into those situations?
That's such a good question.
Are we just, not focusing hard enough or not being positive enough when those things happen?
I don't think so. And it's important to acknowledge
Yeah.
that we don't have control over everything.
Right.
We're part of this larger system, right?
We are.
There are countless factors at play.
Right.
But even in the face of those challenges,
Okay.
I think this idea, this participatory universe, it offers us a different perspective.
Oh, so.
Instead of feeling like a victim of circumstance,
Yeah.
we can choose to see those challenges as
Yes.
opportunities
Opportunities for.
for growth, for learning, maybe even transformation.
So it's not about denying the bad stuff.
No, not all.
It's about how we relate to it.
Exactly. Remember, the universe isn't static. It's this dynamic process.
Dynamic, always changing?
Always changing, and sometimes those difficult experiences, they're what push us to evolve,
Okay.
to expand our consciousness.
So the tough stuff can actually help us grow.
It can, if we let it.
And remember, we're not in this alone.
We are not.
We are all part of this, like you said.
Participatory dance of reality.
And we can support each other,
Absolutely.
learn from each other, co-create a more beautiful world together.
That's the beautiful part.
I love that.
It's not just about individual creation, it's about collaboration coming together.
Collective creation.
Collective creation to shape a reality that works for everyone.
Yeah. So what's the big takeaway here for our listeners? What do we want them to walk away with?
I think the biggest takeaway is this. You are not just a spectator in this universe.
You're in the game.
You're in the game, you're a co-creator,
A participant.
a participant, and your thoughts, your beliefs, your actions, they all have an impact.
They matter.
They matter, and if you can even start to tap into that power consciously, who knows what amazing things you can bring into being.
So this deep dive has been, well, it's been quite a journey.
It has.
And I hope it sparks some new ideas for everybody listening.
Me too.
We've explored some pretty profound stuff.
We have.
Quantum mysteries, the nature of time, the power of thought.
And the incredible interconnectedness of it all.
Yeah. But the most important question
The big one.
remains.
What kind of world do you want to create?
That's it for this deep dive into the participatory anthropic principle.
It's been a pleasure.
But we'll be back soon with another mind-expanding topic.
Always more to explore.
Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep creating the reality you want to see in the world.
That's the key.